and welcome back to Upward Trajectory. I'm so excited today to have Alaina Schwartz with Alaina Schwartz Enterprises with us here today. Thanks for joining us, Alaina.
Oh my God, what a pleasure, Jennifer. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And it's so funny when I have guests on that just have the positive energy vibe. I can't tell you how much I feel it. It's just like, I don't need coffee in the morning when I'm doing this because I just get like this zing of like, whoa, here we go.
Well, if it's any help, I don't drink coffee ever in the morning. I don't drink coffee
Either.
at all.
I don't need to. I just talk to people like you, and I just have an abundance of people like you in my life, and I don't need it either.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Well, thank you for being here. And I'd love to just kind of hear your story because I know you aren't always in this place of, mindset and your thoughts are your power, that kind of thing. So can you kind of take us through your journey?
Absolutely. Love to. So I actually started out as an attorney in the music industry for 18 years in New York City. And truthfully, it was my parents' agenda. It wasn't my agenda. The music industry was my agenda, but being a lawyer was my parents' agenda. And my career culminated as me being the executive vice president of the largest independent music company in the world from the North
Wow.
American operations. And it was a really big job, mid six-figure job. And when I got to that level of success, and I was working 60 to 80 hours a week, and I finally realized the thoughts that went through my head was, is this it? Is this all there is? And it was hard for me to imagine continuing on this trajectory. I kept thinking the more success I achieved, the happier I would be. And then I finally got to that place and I was devoid of purpose. So when I started to really reckon with that, I literally just walked away from it without having any idea what I was going to do next. And I went in search of my purpose. And I started to explore all kinds of things that I was really passionate about, from nutrition to, various different things, healing arts and things of that nature. And I learned that I was really good at a lot of things, not all of which I was meant to do. And I smacked right tab in the middle of what I would call a dark night of the soul. Now, some people might call that a midlife crisis, but the truth is it can happen at any age, because I have clients it happens in their 30s. I have clients it happens in their 60s, so
Yeah.
it's not midlife dependent. And all the structures of my life collapsed. I literally was massively sleep deprived for 5 years, massive anxiety. I was in what I would call pretty much a living hell is what it felt like to me.
Wow.
And, I went from having this really sweet nest egg to being over almost $100,000 in debt. I had issues with my son. My marriage fell apart. I lost a lot of friends. We moved location. We moved out of New York City to another location where I knew no one. Like all of this kind of converged at once. And what it was it allowed to kind of foment a place of me understanding I needed to get out of the hole I was in. And I started to search out tools and techniques. And the tools and techniques were essentially neuroplasticity. They were me rewiring my own brain for a different experience and understanding all of the limiting beliefs that were creating my experience, and essentially how I could change them, how I could rewire that to have a new experience, to have new thoughts, to have new emotions, to have, new habits for new experiences. And so that's essentially, in the process of that, I then hired a purpose coach, and it became really clear that my purpose in life was mostly through the instrument of business, but to help other people claim the ideal life, that the dream life that they really want, through being able to create the lifestyle, the time, and the financial freedom that they really want through the vehicle of business.
Wow, what a story. And what's really profound for me, and I know a lot of people are going to be like, oh my goodness, you walked away from a mid six-figure job and knew that it felt empty, yet you were
Empty.
all this income was coming in. And this should be just a lesson to everyone listening. Money does not make you feel fulfilled or happy. Absolutely not.
No.
And it doesn't matter how much is coming in. It just isn't going to solve the problems that are internal. And
Right.
I think that people just don't realize that. They think like, when I get to this level, when I make this much, but it always becomes this more. It's like, okay, you reach that level, but now I want this level. And you're always looking into the future and you're not living in the present. and you're not feeling fulfilled or happy. And I'm just so, amazed, like people like you and the stories like you, that you walked away from seemingly everything from the outsider's perspective, right? Yet you felt
Right.
this big hole inside. And that had to take a lot of courage to step up and walk away from that.
Well, I love everything that you just said, Jennifer, because it's so right on. Because from the outside, I had a 2-bedroom apartment in Manhattan. I had a husband. I traveled to exotic locations multiple times a year. Like from the outside, it looked like I had it all. But from the inside, I was really empty. And that's the thing. And, like so many high achieving people in particular, although I think maybe even people who aren't high achievers, but for me, I work with high achievers, so I know them really well. But there's this idea, like, if I just keep getting to the next level, then I'll finally feel satisfied. If I just keep achieving this, then I'll finally feel satisfied. Excuse me. And what I experience is that they've identified their self-worth with their net worth and achievements, rather than finding the fulfillment and satisfaction from the inside out. And that journey for me, I think, was necessary for me to find it from the inside out rather than from living from the outside in. Because when you live from the outside in, you're blown about by circumstances, and your happiness is always dependent on what's going on outside of you, rather than you having complete control over your happiness and fulfillment inside.
Yes, yes. And happiness can only come from within. It cannot
Absolutely.
come from external things. Other people cannot make you happy. Things, money, anything external cannot bring true happiness. It has to
Love
come
it.
from within.
Yes, I love that. I love that. So true.
Yes. So you made this radical transformation, and you left your job, you got out of your rut, you found mindsets, and you decided that, and I love the purpose coach. I love that title. I've not heard that before. That's an incredible title. A purpose coach is what we all need for sure.
Mhm.
So then you yourself became a coach for high achievers, and kind
Yes.
of talk to us about, how did that come about, and what are you doing now for people?
Sure, sure. So it's interesting because when it took me so long to find my purpose, because I really had been asking, internally, like, help me understand here, what's my purpose, for so long, that by the time I found it, I really, in the beginning of coaching, wanted to help other people find their purpose. So what I was doing is either helping people discover their purpose, or if they knew what it was, help them actually launch. Because there's this huge, I would say, chasm between, I'm over here and I know what my purpose is, and I actually know what to do with it now, and how to, actualize it. And so for a while,
Right.
I was helping people like launch their businesses. And in my first year of coaching, I created a 6-figure business. And what I started to notice was there's different mindsets in each of those stages. So as I started to progress my business, and my business started to grow exponentially, I started to work with more and more people who are further along in the journey. So essentially what I do now is I help 6 to 7+ figure business earners scale. For me, it's really impact, because income comes as a byproduct of impact, not because we're focusing on just getting the money, because again, it's chasing the achievement. There's nothing wrong with money. I love money. I think money makes life so much sweeter. But when we focus on service, when we focus on giving, when we focus on impact, so much of the other things that we want materially end up showing up anyway. And so I help them scale their impact and essentially grow their income, but doing it in a way where they work significantly less, even less than 40 hours a week. Because what I experience is, again, high achievers tend to think, I just have to work harder and I have to work more. And the only way I'm going to be successful is if I work harder and more. And that is like one of the biggest myths to me in business. And it isn't true. And it's about, what do you really want? What kind of lifestyle do you want? What do you really want to experience? And then we build from there.
And I absolutely love that you brought up impact and service. When you have a mindset to serve others and impact others' lives, it's amazing how income comes, things go well for you. I learned this back in sales without even realizing I was learning it. I was like, when I truly focus on what the other person needs and helping them get that, I always get the sale. And I'm like, well, I figured that out. And not
Yes.
realizing it was because I was putting their needs above my income needs. And it all fell in line when I did that. And
Yeah.
I love
I
that you
love
brought
that.
that up, because so many people focus on, I need, but you lose sight of, no, what do other people need?
Yeah, I so love that you spoke to that and that you discovered that yourself, Jennifer, because I really do think, not being attached, I call it commission breath, like not being attached to getting the sale. It's like actually really repelling whatever that is. And I don't even call it sales, to be honest. Like the work I do is heart enrollment. I'm being an advocate and standing as an advocate for people and their dreams for what they really want. And the more that I do that, the more my clients just show up and trust me. And that to me is really the key of standing there, is reframing all of that to be the come from a place of service. Yeah, really hugely important.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Zig Ziglar said, I think there's I may not get this exactly right, but it's some comment of like, when the more people you help get what they want, the more that you get what you want.
It's so true. It's so true. And it falls in line so perfectly when we focus that way. So in terms of, mindset and the kind of things that we're talking about here, there's probably people out there listening going, yeah, hello, me, I need help here. And the biggest thing is not the realization, but the action, that you've got to take action and you've got to take that first step. Do you have any tips or advice for them?
Great question. So, it's really funny because mindset in and of itself, and I consider what I do almost not really mindset. I consider it state of being, because it's really about changing your state of being. And your state of being is comprised of your thoughts, and your thoughts go out. This is from a quantum physics perspective.
Absolutely.
This isn't from a woo-woo spiritual perspective. It is, but it's from a quantum physics perspective,
Yes,
which is
scientifically backed. We know that this is true.
Yes, exactly. So your thoughts, broadcast your intention out to the universe, and then your emotions magnetize what you want back. And so it's about changing your thoughts and changing your emotions and changing your habits. And actually, in many ways, it's super simple, really simple, but not easy. And it's not easy because we tend to have this negativity bias where we tend to focus, our brains are wired to focus on what's wrong in our life rather than what's right. And so it requires daily consistent action. And when people don't take the daily consistent action, whether it's be meditating, whether it's be journaling, one of the things that I recommend for my clients, which again is so simple, is gratitude. But it's not just about, and I know that's a big thing for you, it's not just about writing down 10 things you're grateful for, but actually feeling it in the process. Because you can't be in anger, in frustration, in sadness or hurt, and be in gratitude at the same time.
Absolutely. And it's the antithesis of stress, depression, anxiety, you name it. It's the opposite of that. So when you want to get out of that, it's you bring the gratefulness in, and it just eradicates all those things immediately. Now, it will all come crashing back if you don't keep that practice going. Like you said, we got to make it a habit. And any ideas for, how to get this into a busy schedule for people that are like, I want to bring this into my life, but I have no time to do it?
I have to say the no time to do it to me is one of the biggest excuses I ever hear, because the truth is, it's like this famous quote that Gandhi said, which is, I have so much to do today, I'll meditate for 2 hours rather than 1. And the idea is that when you do these practices, like for example, don't wake up in the morning and immediately check your phone and go on social media. Like, what are you doing? You're getting up and you're going into the same neurosynaptic patterns that say, oh, this is how my day is going to go. Start your day differently, and so people will say, I don't have enough time. But when you do these practices, you free up time, because what it takes, like from a biological perspective, when we're in fight or flight, your brain is focused. Your brain can only focus on here. It's like it has blinders on. It's what's going to keep me in survival. What's going to keep me going here. It can't be resourceful. It can't be creative. It can't be inspired. It doesn't have access to any of those things that come from being in your parasympathetic nervous system. And so people are mostly in their sympathetic nervous system, and they're doing the same thing the same way every day, all the time. And you got to shift it up. Like, your body is literally addicted to those hormones being dumped in your body. You got to shift it up. And sometimes your body will resist and want to do it, but the more you do it, the more you will find you have more time. And that's
Yes.
really the thing, is that I help my clients expand time, and that's how they're able to work less than 40 hours. My clients who go from working 6.5 days a week to working, 5, 4, 3 days a week, depending on what kind of life they want, are able to do that because they expand the time that they do have, because they get out of stress.
Yes, and what you just described there was we are literally on autopilot. I think it's something of upwards of 90 to 95% of our life. And if you
Yep.
think of your waking day, that you are on autopilot, and I know this is true because I don't think about taking a shower, brushing my teeth, getting ready in the morning. I don't think about any of that, but I'm just doing it. I don't think about
Yes.
driving half the time I'm driving. We are
Yes.
literally on autopilot so much, and we need to take that back and be conscious, present, and mindful.
I
And
love.
yeah, you hit the nail on the head right there.
And also, what you want to create on autopilot are the synaptic connections of the things that you want. So you want to create an autopilot gratitude of seeing the best in the world, of understanding that if some action you were taking didn't work, it's only feedback and data and information. It's not failure. And it's like, keep going. So, not take it personally. So there's a lot of things that you want on autopilot. And when you start putting those things on autopilot, you actually start creating cohesiveness in your brain. So all these disparate parts of your brain that aren't really communicating with each other when you're in stress actually become coherent. And when your brain becomes coherent, you become coherent, and your life becomes coherent. And so, doing those kinds of things on autopilot, like my meditation is part of my day. I don't ever think anything of it. And I meditate for an hour to an hour and 40 minutes every day. And I'm a busy person, but yet that's a part of my day, because I know it allows me to do everything I want throughout the day, be the person I want to be, which is key, be the person that I want to be, to have what I want in my life.
Yes, and I as well. I wake up and it's the first thing I do, and I spend at least 40 minutes. That's my minimum. If I can get in more,
Love
great.
that.
If not, that is my absolute minimum is 40 minutes. And sometimes if that time ends, I'm like, I need more because you're just in that state of, complete presence and joy. And like one of my meditations is I just bring light within, and I radiate that out, and I just envision my day where I'm just radiating joy and light to the world. And I have great days because of what I do in preparation for the day. And I'm
That's
sure
so
you
true.
can say the same.
Absolutely. I say the same. And I recommend my clients do the same. And that's, again, really simple, but not easy, because people will resist it. People will resist actually doing what becomes the game changer in their life. And when they do, they repeat that. It's like, I have this saying that you don't live this, you don't live 80 years, you live the same year 80 times. And that's what most people experience, is the same thing day in and day out with very little variation on the theme. And for them to actually live a different day, it requires, and for them to have a different business, it requires that they actually do different things, that they become the person who has everything that they already want already. And they become that person now. It's not like, oh, when I have that money, I'll finally have freedom. No, you have the freedom now, and then you have that money.
Yes, yes. So in terms of the mindfulness and meditations, do you have anywhere to direct people to go to get started in that?
Oh, that's a great question. People ask me all the time. And I do such long meditations. So the things that I recommend are not necessarily things that people start, but they're that can start with really easily to develop the practice. So there are a lot of apps that are out there that people can, search meditation apps. I know some of my clients use Insight Timer or Insight, I think it's called Insight, is one of the apps that a lot of my clients use, that they say that they have good results with. But again, I tend to do longer. And honestly, right now I'm doing a lot of Joe Dispenza's meditation.
Oh,
So I
I
don't know
love
if you're
his.
familiar with Dr. Joe.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So I do a lot of his meditations, because for me, it's about expanding into the quantum field. So that's essentially what I spend a lot of time focusing on, is moving my energy up and out and expanding into the quantum field. But those are some pretty they can be some pretty advanced meditations.
Yeah, just his space meditation, I think, is 40 to 60 minutes just to get into the present mindset. So yeah,
Yeah.
they're very long. I know what you're talking about.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
And I agree. You know, the more you do this, the more you're going to see change in your life, and the more you're going to want to do more of it. So I
Absolutely.
totally believe that you're on the right track of like, yeah, I meditate more now than I ever have. I'm getting more and more and more into it as well because I'm seeing the changes in my life. So
Yeah.
I have thoroughly enjoyed having you on today, Alaina. And
Thank
I
you.
know
It's been
people
a
are
joy to
going
be
to
here.
want to reach out to you and to find you. So how would they go about doing that?
Well, they can reach out and find me on my website, which is www.alainaschwartz.com. And that's ALAINASCHWARTZ. And I'm also on Facebook. I spend a lot of time on LinkedIn. So searching my name will bring me up on LinkedIn too. And I just also want to offer your audience, if I may, like if this kind of work is of interest to you to help you grow yourself and your business, I do offer 15-minute clarity calls with me for free,
Wow.
where we can jump on a call and see about what would be the next steps that you can take to actually grow yourself and grow your business.
Oh, that'll
So
be wonderful.
yeah, so happy to offer that. And so, reach out to me. My email address is alaina@alainaschwartz.com. And if you, again, ALAINA, and if you reach out to me, happy to set up some time to have that conversation.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for offering that to everyone. Please take her up on that. She's amazing. The
Thank
energy that
you.
I'm feeling right now between us is it's resonating at a very high level. So she's the real deal.
Thank you so
So
much,
thank you
Jennifer.
for being on the show today, Alaina. I've
It's
thoroughly
a
enjoyed our
delight.
time together.
Such a delight. I really enjoyed it. Thanks.
Thank you. And please join us again soon for another episode of Upward Trajectory. Take care.